Hello, brothers and sisters. So I was wanting some bubble tea, and they have these tapioca pearls. Usually they come in a bag that has like brown sugar, dark brown sugar. It's mixed with some tapioca starch, and it's formed in little balls with a little bit of water in there, so it's kind of spongy. And then you put it into some water and you boil it, and then it becomes these little these bubbles. And so I made some from these tapioca pearls right here. It's supposed to be large tapioca pearls. And I was boiling it for an hour, 2 hours. It didn't boil the centers. So when I made it, the centers didn't boil, and they're crunchy. They're not supposed to be crunchy. They're supposed to be nice and chewy and gummy. Bubble tea is a Taiwan Asian drink, and they take the tapioca starch, they form little balls, they boil them in like brown sugar water. They put it into any teas, anything, so you get this nice meld of being able to eat something and chew on something while you're drinking something. So the drink a little bit slower, you enjoy it more, it has more tactile, you get to do something. It's like, I don't know, it's just a fun drink. With this, just these regular balls right here, these tapioca pearls, they were dry on the outside, completely like dead, dry bones, you know. They didn't form right when I cooked them. And so what I actually had to do is I had to blend them up into a powder, and then I had to boil half of it with a little bit of brown sugar, and I added some vanilla. And then I took the other half and I had to knead it. I had to knead the dough, some of the dry tapioca starch into the wet tapioca starch, so it makes these little, it's like a soft mochi kind of starch. Okay, this is what they make mochi out of. They stretch it, they put it over ice cream, you get mochi ice cream. It's a Japanese delicacy. So you take these little beads, you put it into some starch, and then you boil it. And so when you already have some liquid inside, forms and boils evenly instead of not forming correctly. And so what you get is this nice little tapioca pearl, a boba, if you will. As I was making these, I was thinking of the Israelites in the desert of Sin and how God rained down manna from heaven. The manna from heaven they described as looking like a coriander seed. Now, what these look like, they kind of look like coriander seeds. If you haven't seen a coriander seed, they kind of look round. This little kind of white outside, a little white shell, and then it has two seeds to one round. And they get split in half, and you grow them, and it makes cilantro. So I was thinking, well, manna, coriander, cilantro, starch. And then I started to think, well, what does starch break down to in the body? And starch is actually broken down into glucose. There's this thing called amylase in your saliva. It breaks down the starch into maltose, and then the maltose is turned into glucose. And you want to know what the sugar in the blood that people have, the thing that your body breaks down most food into to give you energy, is actually glucose. So glucose is basically our body's energy storage. It's our blood food that everything is broken down into. And then, we have the vitamins and minerals. We have fiber, which fiber helps things move along. It's kind of empty. It's like the husks, different things that our body can't break down, but it just moves things along and acts as a bulk agent. While our body kind of sucks out and breaks down every other food item that we eat into its major or minor components, so our body can send it to each one of our cells in a scientific term. Do you know where starch comes from? It can come from potatoes, which is a root. It comes from tapioca. It's the tapioca root. it comes from. I remember I was at a restaurant and we had this potato machine. And this potato machine would take the skins off of the potatoes, and then after all the potatoes were skinned, it had this running water over it, and the running water actually washed out the starch from the potatoes. And when we kind of reached down there, it was like a whole bunch of starch that we could grab, like a fistful of starch. Starch only breaks down in heat. It kind of connects to one another. That's why you have to bring a pudding up to a boil with cornstarch, or else it doesn't form correctly. It doesn't bond with itself. But you think about it, God is the root, and the root of Jesse, and roots have blood, they have starch. And what is in trees is you have tree blood, which is basically sap. A lot of tree blood in maple trees is turned into maple syrup. It's boiled out, the sugars are condensed, and then it's caramelized. And just a natural caramelization process at 150 degrees, and you got maple syrup. And so Jesus and God is the root. And manna from heaven, I don't know, it probably broke down into glucose and fed the body, and it came from the root. And I think that's where the symbolism video is going. Now, I was just watching some videos on how to properly make boba from scratch, because the ones that were pre-packaged, kind of being lazy, didn't form correctly. And they made it purely out of cornstarch. Now, the cornstarch, they did everything the same. They boiled it, they kneaded it, they added more starch, they formed into balls, they boiled it, and then they made their drinks, and then they went to drink it with their bubble tea straw, and the beverage tasted the same, but the boba did not. See, they didn't use the proper root, the proper starch, which is tapioca pearls. It didn't taste right, it wasn't chewy, it wasn't spongy, it wasn't the right boba. So you have to use the right starch, the right root, in order to make the proper product and have the right manna coming from the right God, not the fake God. I just wanted to share that with you guys. All right, Amen, God bless, and take care.